We just wrapped up talking about Piaget and cognitive development in infancy and childhood. Now we're going to move to the social development. And there's no one name really attached to this. There's a couple of names we'll talk about, but we're just going to talk about some different concepts, vocabulary terms that are influential and you would even see in an infant or child. Stranger anxiety is one of them. This is the fear of strangers, and it develops around 8 months. And I don't want you to think strangers as just somebody off the street. This is an aunt or uncle that they haven't seen in a while, even sometimes grandma and grandpa. This is before they really recognize others. And it begins around 8 months where, aunt or uncle might come up and try and hold the baby that mom is holding, and the baby will kind of melt into mom a little bit, like, I don't know about this. I'd rather just stay right here with my mommy. This is the age at which infants form schemas for familiar faces and cannot assimilate a new face. Okay, so this develops a little bit later. So some anxiety there. Please, no, I just want to stay with my mom. I don't recognize your face. Okay, let's talk about attachment. Attachment is the positive emotional bond that develops between a child and a particular individual. Most of the time, this is the mother. And so when I talk about the mom, when it comes to attachment, please know that it's not always the mom. It can be the dad, too. It could be grandma and grandpa. It could be an adoptive mom, right? Just know that it's the primary caregiver, essentially, that attachment is formed with. And I want you to get out of your mind this idea of imprinting. Sure, animals may imprint, and it's not like for you Twilight fans when Jacob imprints on Renesmee. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen the last one. But it's not that whole lovey-dovey thing and I'll be committed to you for your entire life. It's attachment with a caregiver is imprinting. Well, we don't imprint as humans. We form an attachment. It's more complex than just the first being we see as our mom. That's not the case. Okay, Harry Harlow is the first name that we need to know. He took infant monkeys away from their biological mother at birth. Please quickly get over your sadness if that makes you sad, because we got to think about, okay, what did we learn from this? He gave the baby monkeys 2 options of mommies. He gave them a wire mother, and you would see this in the bottom right-hand corner here, the one on the left. This is a wire mother that is providing milk. Okay, you see the monkey is on the bottle with milk in it. And then on the other end, on the other side, is a cloth mother that was warm but did not provide milk. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at no comfort but milk, food, right? And then we're looking at comfort but no food. So what would the baby choose? Baby monkey spent most of the time clinging to the cloth monkey and went occasionally to the wire monkey only to nurse, only to eat. So what this showed is that the monkey became attached to the cloth mother even though it wasn't providing it food. Sure, it got its food elsewhere, but the food didn't make it cling to the wire mother. This showed us that comfort and attachment has nothing to do with food, although yes, it's biologically necessary or required, but it's comfort that we seek, or at least this species seeks. So what are the implications of Harlow's research? This idea has then been transferred to humans, that human attachment grows through the responsiveness, not responsibleness, responsiveness, how responsive the parent is to the child, of the infant's caregivers, to the signals the babies provide. And think of the signals that a newborn baby can provide. It's not very much. It's essentially just crying, but also smiling or smirking and reaching for things, etc. If you notice that your baby is reaching for something and you help them get it, you have just responded to your child. If your baby is crying in its crib and you go and pick it up, you have just responded to your child. So the more the caregiver responds, the more secure the attachment. And we're going to talk about in more depth what this whole attachment thing is. A secure attachment is the relaxed and attentive caregiving, and it becomes the backbone of secure attachment, in that it's a very relaxed, like it says, an attentive relationship between the child and their primary caregiver. Insecure attachment would be the opposite. Harlow's study showed that monkeys experience great anxiety if their terry cloth mother is removed. And this is kind of misleading because just because the baby shows anxiety when the mother leaves doesn't mean that that's an insecure attachment. There's something else going on there, and we'll talk about this. Our next name that we're going to consider is Mary Ainsworth, and she came up with she did the strange situation. Okay? The strange situation is kind of her trademark. That was her research. It was a test to measure the level of attachment in which the mother and child enter an unfamiliar room, hence strange situation. So they would go into an unfamiliar room, one that they've never been to before, mom and baby. The mother lets the child explore while she sits down, so mom is still in the room. An adult stranger, hence more strangeness in the strange situation, enters as the mom leaves. Okay? And then the mom returns a short while later with the stranger leaving. And they just kind of measure what is the reaction of the child in this mom leaving and coming back. So what were her findings? She found that securely attached children use mom as a home base, exploring the room yet returning occasionally to her. When she leaves, they show distress and they go to her when she returns. About 60% of children showed a secure attachment. Here's the thing. When mom leaves the room, all babies show anxiety. They are distressed. They all show distress. I don't want you to think that an insecure attachment means when mom leaves, the baby freaks out. No, if the baby doesn't freak out when mom leaves, there's something else entirely going on. Around 12 months of age, 9, 10, 11, 12 months, and even a little more than that, is the age of the babies that they use here. All babies, no matter the attachment, will freak out when mom leaves. It's about what they do when she returns. A securely attached child, when mom comes back, will go to mom. Mommy, pick me up, hold me. Mom holds them. They calm down relatively quickly, within a couple of minutes, and they get back to exploring this new environment. Like, ooh, look at the picture on the wall, and look at these new toys. And they'll play for a little while. They'll look at mom, make sure she's still there. They'll go to mom and say, Mommy, look at these cool toys, maybe without saying it, but in their own baby way. They are securely attached to her, which means that they're able to go forth and explore their environment because they trust her and know that she will respond to their needs. Mary Ainsworth, on the other end, found that insecurely attached children react in a couple of different ways. We have two types of insecure attachment: avoidant and ambivalent. And again, the way that we find this is when mom comes back into the room. When mom comes back, well, here's the thing. With avoidant, they don't necessarily cry when mom leaves. If they do cry when mom leaves, they avoid her when she returns. Okay, they avoid her when she returns. This might mean like just kind of being really solemn and not really looking at her, not necessarily, like still being upset, but not really seeking comfort from her. An ambivalent child, an ambivalent insecure attachment, the child displays anxiety when mom is in the room, meaning when she comes back, and are even upset. They, of course, are upset when she leaves, but when she comes back, they're still upset. They may go to her for a while, at the same time hitting and kicking her, but they're still incredibly upset. The idea is that when she comes back, they're upset because she left, but her coming back should be what consoles them, what makes them feel better. But all they can think about is, I don't know if you're going to respond to me in the future, and that makes me anxious, that makes me distressed, so I'm continuing crying. I can't trust that you're not going to leave me again. I can't trust that you're going to come back. And avoidant is thinking the same thing. It's just a different kind of response, and that I'm going to avoid you because I don't want to be distressed about you coming and going and that being unpredictable. Again, with an insecure attachment, it's all about the unpredictable responsiveness of the mom or the primary caregiver. With a securely attached child, the child knows, and the parent is responsive. The child knows that my mom is going to respond to what I need. So some more on her findings. Children who are securely attached tend to be more socially and emotionally well-adjusted and are seen as more cooperative, capable, and playful. Think of a child who's securely attached when they're 5 years old, right? A few years have passed and they go to school and they're away from mom for a long time. A securely attached child knows my mom is going to come back for me and I trust in her. She's going to respond to my needs. How cool is that? I get to go to school and explore and learn and become, the next leader of the world. Whereas an insecure child, insecurely attached child, can't think of all those wonderful things because they are unsure of their parents' responsiveness. Here's the thing, the children who lack a secure attachment do not always have difficulties later in life. Just because they don't have a secure attachment doesn't mean they're done for. Attachment style is related to the social environment in which the children are raised. And the types of attachment really then are culturally determined. Finally, let's talk about parenting styles. Diana Baumrind is who came up with these, and there are 4. There's authoritarian. Okay, authoritarian, and I want you to think totalitarian. These are rigid, punitive, meaning lots of penalties, and they demand unquestioning obedience from their children. Don't ask me why. Do as I say, not as I do, because I say so, all of those things. They have strict standards and discourage expressions of disagreement. You don't need to know why, you just need to obey. Blind obedience. Children tend to be unsociable, unfriendly, and withdrawn because they don't know how to handle situations on their own because their parents have been so strict, they don't allow them to learn how to handle things on their own. On the opposite end would be permissive. Parents give children relaxed or inconsistent direction, and although they're nice, they require little of their children. There's not a lot of expectations of their children. They don't need to do chores. They don't really need to get great grades, you could say. They just kind of do what they want. Children tend to be immature, moody, dependent, and have low self-control because they've never been taught any of those things through expectations and standards. Authoritative is the more democratic parenting style. The parents are firm, setting limits and goals for their children, yet they explain, and they use reasoning to set those limits. They often let children have some role in making decisions and setting goals. This is the one where it's not permissive. It is by no means permissive because these parents have expectations of their children. And if their children don't meet those expectations, there are consequences. However, these parents explain to their children, this is why you can't scream, kick, and yell in public or even at home. Right? This is why we say please and thank you. This is why you show love to your brother and sister and not be mean. Right? You're explaining. This is why we have a curfew. And you explain it to a point that the child says, all right, I get it. They also encourage children's independence in making their own decisions with some guidance. Children tend to be likable, self-reliant, independent, and cooperative. Finally, there's uninvolved and sometimes called neglectful, and this is more of a lack of a parenting style. The parents show little interest in their children and they are emotionally detached. They view parenting as nothing more than providing food, clothing, and shelter for the children. In the most extreme form, uninvolved parents are guilty of neglect, which is a form of child abuse. And the children tend to feel unloved and emotionally detached, which has a lot of consequences later in life. So which is the best parenting style? And really, authoritative is, you could say, the best because it has the best results in the children later in their life. However, the temperament or disposition of the child often has a lot to do with the parenting style used or is necessary. So it does depend on the situation.